able to find whatever, and even the way that we do curate our pages
Right.
aren't necessarily that way. So we're telling them that, like, are going to explain a little bit about the homepage recommendation engine, just a little bit, and then we're going to just be like, hey, what you should do is go to fbe.com/
videos.
wait.
Isn't it?
Oh no, youtube.com/FBE/videos to go to the video page
Yeah,
specifically, because then you even see what things came out in the order that they came out.
Yep.
We can't mess with that.
Right.
It's like fully no doubt going to be that page, and we're telling them, like, bookmark that if you're on your laptop or your desktop.
Sure.
If you have an iPhone, use Safari and make it use it as make it a app icon. And I then found out on Android, which I don't have, you use Chrome, I think, and they have the same kind of thing that make it go. It's a button that will bring you right to it, and you can have it as an app button on your homepage.
Yep.
On your phone. It's
great.
And just trying to be like, if you want to do that for all your favorite people. We're basically creating something for YouTube, even though we try to tell them things like, can you please make a shelf, like one of the things on your homepage that like show you the recommended or show you things you've watched recently. They have the different shelves, rows.
Yep.
Right, why wouldn't they just have one for subscriptions?
Right.
Underneath recommended, down on the bottom, but still visible.
Yeah, it's either that it would be all your subscriptions, and no doubt they'll be in there, or like let you choose 10 of your favorite people, and they'll live in that shelf. And you can choose where that shelf is. So instead, we're trying to be like, okay, if you're gonna create 10 icons on your phone, I guess, for like your favorite people, and click through them, because that's the best way you can support to watch every video when it comes out. And if you can watch it right when it comes out, that's the best.
Right.
But now this type of system, and YouTube, if it wasn't so confusing to users, this type of system would be what everybody kind of does. If they knew, they would go to their favorite people's places to
Right.
go watch their stuff. But they don't so many people don't realize that that's how YouTube works. Even YouTubers don't. No, that's how it works.
And actually, it's funny because that's the way I don't engage at all on YouTube. I'll respond to fans, and I love that. I respond to comments, but when it comes to like actually subscribing to channels, I am a habitual non-subscriber. But I will always go to search for Fine Brothers, for Screen Junkies, for all my favorite channels, and that's just the habit that I've gotten into over the years.
You're a low percentage.
Yeah, but I'm super low. I don't use a subscription feed to anything.
Person,
like the only time I've ever really subscribed to channels is to either show my support as a fellow YouTuber, or like as a test case to see how the algorithm operates just from a consulting side of things.
I'm like personally, and then I've given this to the rest of the company, but I'm subscribed to around
You're insane.
1,500 channels.
Wow.
And it's to keep up with because of React and the things that we cover trend-wise. It's like there's not. We've actually gone out and looked at, and I wish we just had so much money to like hire people to build me the engine, like surfacing engine, to show me things that I want to see that are popping on YouTube in various ways. But we've tried even like different like free tests and trials of all the different ones that are out there to be like looking at how surfacing Facebook, what's popular, or Twitter and Instagram. They all just don't work that well. Have never been able to find one, and YouTube particularly, none of them have YouTube on them. And so it's been like, it's just literally the research is to scroll through and just look.
All right, so before I go to questions from the fans about the algorithm, is there anything that you don't think we cover that we probably should make sure that we get out in the world about this algorithm?
Well, so we've talked a little bit about the fan experience. To me, for any creators who are listening, in that 5% or 5% spread the good word to 6%, we said for this episode.
That's right.
That 6% spread the good word to your favorite creators and get the message out. Just be more aware of your programming cadence. It's interesting because every small change that YouTube makes on the algorithm ultimately dictates the type of content that you as a viewer are seeing, and the content and the channels that succeed, right? So right now you're seeing channels that are having explosive growth rates, but they have to be hyper-focused channels.
Yeah.
The fidget spinner trend. If you're a fidget spinner channel and that's all you do, you're going to see a huge amount of growth during that trend, but as soon as it's over, you die. And that's, I think, one of the scariest things right now is people who are coming through the ranks are going to have a really hard time of creating sustainable channels in the long term, because YouTube is so much about, did it activate people? Is it super serving that same fan base every single video, every single time? And
early on, that makes it a very difficult ability to figure out how to build a sustainable popular channel unless you find the one format. And that would be my advice, I guess, in a way, is like that is what YouTube probably likes the most right now, is if you do the same kind of content every video.
Every time.
But that's where you got to be specific, though, because if it's just a fidget spinner video versus a formatted thing that for the time being, it's fidget spinner focus,
And
but it's the
then
type of thing
you
that you can jump to the next
something
trend with,
else.
and people still love
Right.
that format and love you.
Right.
Then you're in a better position.
Well, and that's it's that love you element that really makes the difference, right? Are you specifically a channel creator who is personable enough and getting your personality out there during that big viral trend or whatever that people are going to want to come back for you? Not necessarily for the fidget spinner, not necessarily for the emoji movie trend, whatever it is, but for you specifically, because that's the one, common carrier across all of your videos. Otherwise, if not, now all of a sudden you had a trend channel that just kind of died. But if you are able to get people loyal to the format that you've created, your sense of humor, your personality, what have you, yeah, you're going to lose some people because you're talking about different things. But hopefully you're carrying a large number of those people over to whatever the next trend is or the next subject matter that you're covering is.
And at the end of the day, it's still a sad reality of the current state of YouTube that it is a very difficult place to actually be very creative.
Yeah.
Because you can always get lucky and lightning in a bottle, or they love you enough, but experimenting, it can be the death of your channel. And it's a very sad thing as a creative of it's a risk now to do anything different, rather than that being the ethos of you found success. Now you can maybe do the thing you really wanted to do. It's like you found success. You better keep doing what you're doing, and you're risking now with the way that the recommendation engine is, and among other things, you're risking now trying something else, hurting the thing now that has always been there, which is a sad state of affairs in a lot of ways from a creative perspective on the platform.
Which is where you end up in a place where it's interesting that you see different channels experimenting with this idea that they can't sully their working channel and working format, and instead make sure that you start new channels that have another format on it. And so that at least you sustain this idea of what you already have, and then you have to be a good personality, you have to have a strong influence over the audience to want to go to new channels all the time. But you are seeing this playing around right now. A great conversation that I had one time, and I loved talking with him, was Matthias. Matthias is somebody in his company, High Five Studios. They're totally playing around with the idea of one thing for the most part per channel, and then you get to see if it doesn't work. When they try to launch the new channel, they try that out and they see how big it can get. If it doesn't work out, done. But at least the gaming content and the VR content, even their gaming channel is separated from their VR channel. So even those, because we know that from doing gaming content once a week, that 2 times
Twice
a week now,
yeah.
with Let's Plays, that when we do a VR, we usually take a hit because it doesn't get as much, depending, unless it's some viral big thing or something like Rick and Morty, it will do less. And so we always, whenever we want to do a cool new VR thing, it is going to take a hit, but Matthias puts it on separate channels. Or actually, we haven't talked to Rhett and Link in a while, but I'm not sure if even the thought around Good Mythical Morning has been an example even of what works inside of this new system, that even This Is Mythical channel of them launching that is instead of putting out all those things that no doubt would be getting more views if they put it out on the Good Mythical Morning channel.
But it could hurt Good Mythical Morning proper.
And that's what we've kind of gone through from watching. If you look at Rooster Teeth, Smosh Games, Complex, BuzzFeed, you see, or our channel, you see so many different formats on these things, and we are willing to let the big show get less views in order for the other shows to find its audience. And we don't mind that as much.
So watch everything, guys. If the algorithm actually recommended something to you and you're like, I don't like Kids React, or I don't like the theory that's this week, just click it anyway if you like the channel.
Put it over to the
because you're going to
side,
forget that you love the channel eventually, and you won't realize that it's not there anymore.
It's true.
So just watch everything, and that's the answer.
That's it. That is right. How easy is that, guys? Just watch everything.
Yes. So I'm going to go to a question here from Twitter from Sarah, which is going off of kind of something that you just said in terms of how they'll be underperforming videos and things like that. And there's always a troll comment about look how unsuccessful you are because of how many little views you got. But the question here is why do YouTubers have millions of subscribers but their view counts rarely, if ever, will come anywhere near the actual subscriber count?
Well, and that goes to something that we alluded to earlier, which is, hey, if every subscriber gets served a certain number of videos, right? And if you don't click on a high enough percentage of that channel's videos, YouTube's like, this person is no longer interested in the content that this channel's creating, right? And so if I'm doing, if I'm Jake Paul and every single one of my videos is me doing wacky stuff, being crazy on the streets of LA, and people love to see my antics. Dabbing, making fun of, the shoes of reporters here and around LA, and people love that sort of thing, and I'm doing it every day. those subscribers are going to click on every single one. They're all nice and fresh, and I'm going to get a huge amount of growth off of that. But if all of a sudden I mix up a bunch of different formats, I start doing stuff that people aren't attracted to or whatever, now people click on a lower percentage of those videos.
Things.
They click on other things, whatever. People aren't, YouTube's like, here's a new video, and I'm not clicking on it. All of a sudden, I've told YouTube I'm no longer interested in this channel. So even though I'm still subscribed to it, YouTube will be like, well, we're not going to show you those videos anymore. Right. And in our consulting
so it makes
business,
it harder to find that content. You have to now seek it out, like we were just talking about. You have to go to the channel page. You have to search for it. Yeah. And so instead, you're probably not going to. You're probably just going to click on the thing on your homepage. Yep. And so that becomes your new addiction.
Yeah, we call that burning out a subscriber. So that subscriber has burned out of that channel's content. So YouTube's like, hey, we served you a bunch of stuff. Clearly, you're not clicking on this channel anymore. So it just disappears.
And that goes back to the question that we are having and trying to prove is that we think it's not just that, and that you can be someone that does watch every single video, but the behavior of all the burned out subscribers ends up making it get recommended to even some of them less.
Yep.
And that's something we're trying to prove right now.
No doubt. It's like nobody would be getting still the amount of subscribers they actually have. But I do think that if there was a different system, but it just doesn't work. There's too many people. There's too many videos.
And it's not in the interest of YouTube as a business to do it that way.
At all. Because, if all those subscribers that were still given the video in the way that we all wish that they were, that was right in front of them, and nothing else was in front of them, just our videos, then we'd all be getting a lot more views because a lot of those people would want to watch more often. But it doesn't. Everything needs to find a way to compete, and they need to build these things so that everything can compete to some degree of fairness to be seen, and so that means less views.
Hey, here's a test I've always wanted to run and I've never had the balls to do.
Yeah.
And I say that very seriously, which is I've always wanted to do a video where I ask everyone to unsubscribe and resubscribe in the moment. So now everyone's treated as a fresh subscriber.
Right.
Potentially, I don't know, but I'd be right. It's a scary. Hey, everyone, unsubscribe from my channel, but make sure you hit resubscribe, please. Make sure you do it.
Yeah, because people have talked about that whole idea of being a new,
fresh or new subscriber.
And the rise versus all the legacy things that YouTube thinks about your channel from all of its history, and it's so tough to know all the things that are just sitting there if you have a 10-year-old channel.
So then watch everything, make a brand new channel, and then come back in.
There it is.
Because don't unsubscribe. Stay subscribed just in case, and then make a new one.
There it is. Perfect.
So Vanessa on Twitter wants to know, if the algorithm were to switch to something else, what would it be? Should it be based off of views more? What do you guys think?
YouTube has made it very clear that they're never going to switch away from some version of watch time. I don't think that'll ever happen because it absolutely kind of aligns with their biggest business.
Was that in their ridiculous deck that you went through that I had heard about before you jumped into that whole thing? But those types, I forget what was that you dived into?
It was a research paper.
It's a paper from Google Research on the YouTube neural network.
Yeah.
So that is something that won't go away. It's something I've heard from everyone who's worked at YouTube who I've ever talked about, and including the guy who knows the algorithm probably better than anyone else because he is, I think, like VP of product or algorithm. I forget what department he worked
algorithm.
in. But he was the guy. I call him the architect because he was the one person who's like, oh yeah, this is how it works. We twist knobs to optimize for this or whatever. So that was really interesting. But if it were to switch, I mean, right now you're seeing it, and I think you might start to see it more frequently, is more optimization for daily active users. So not only how frequently, like not only how many minutes are you getting people to watch, but how frequently are you getting them to come back to your channel and to your content, because they want people getting into the habit of watching YouTube. And if you're a channel that's able to produce content every day, you're getting people into that rhythm, into that habit. And I think YouTube would optimize for that. The other thing that I could see them doing moving forward is also and I think they might be. There's no good way to tell, but optimizing for the content that also earns them the most off of ad rev. So if right, but
I mean that then adds another layer of what type of content you can't make on YouTube.
Yeah, what type of content you can't make on YouTube, and also what type of content you should be making. Right. So if it's back
I
to
automatically
school,
go to like half cup empty.
And I'm like, well, how can we optimize for this?
I'm like, oh god, now we can't even make more stuff because that's what's happened to us. So
right, of course.
We've ended up having to look elsewhere to make scripted content. We can't ever make that money back from making that stuff. So that would only make it even more so of like, nope, everything's even tighter of what you can be creative.
It does,
with.
and it tightens the funnel even on the not only the formats that you create and the shows that you, but like very specifically the topics that you're talking about, right? So like, it's end of August, we gotta start doing back to school because all the advertisers are optimizing for back to school, or there's a new movie that's being launched, so everyone has to talk about the new movie, and that's how you get these like super trends that everyone's talking about, Spider-Man Homecoming or whatever, because it's the thing that's earning the most ad dollars right now. So I could see a world where once YouTube has captured everyone's attention, once YouTube is satisfied with the amount of watch minutes it gets, it's like, okay, well now what is our primary metric? Now the primary metric is money. How do we optimize for that?
And I think what we like outside of what we're talking about of making sure that the homepage, they make sure they actually understand if it's working to the way that they say it does, because we don't think it does with like super fan channels. But the other side that is not algorithm or recommendation based, but just the idea of features and being able to allow for things like we were just talking about, like a shelf on the homepage, and like give the users and give creators, like if you don't care, if we all don't matter, and if we're all just like 0.5 of the website or something, right? Just like the 5%. If that's all we are for this whole website, then why not let there be ways that if you are somebody that has subscribed to 10 channels or 50 channels or 100 channels, or the opposite side, creators wise, if you've gotten to a place where you have 1 million subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers, you have new feature sets that maybe show up, because if you're a super fan that subscribes to 50 YouTube channels, then maybe you want to
customize your homepage.
Yeah, maybe you want to be able to customize things for yourself.
And it shouldn't matter because it's only point whatever.
Right. And that's what we try to say to them is like, don't do it as a default, but like give it to the people once
it
actually is happening.
The other thing I've told you too, because sometimes I'll talk to them about a feature that I think would help creators, and they'll say, but the algorithm it's going to hurt your channel. Like less people will click on this, it will hurt your channel. And I respond back, you are right, and you're accurate, but you should be letting that decision be made by the creators who would maybe prefer to cultivate the audience, because you've devalued subscriptions so much at this point that some of us might rather take the algorithmic hit to cultivate the audience we have, and why not give creators that choice?
Which has been the example that we use is that related videos and those spots that are given. That at one point there was an ability to choose.
No, it was the most recent 4, I think, wasn't it?
Okay.
At one point?
It was something like that. It was automatic, but it was at least a recent.
There was a pretty long period where they were running a test where the channel that you're currently watching owned those top 4 slots.
Correct.
And whatever YouTube thought or wanted you to click on was always
and that's
spot
starting
5,
to go away,
that's
though,
where
I
people
think,
go.
isn't it?
It is, yeah,
But
as they're trying to optimize for discovery on the platform.
Right. So the idea is they say, well, this, even if it's not your own videos, it's picking things that like it only helps, because you'll be on somebody else's video or whatever, or it's picking your best video that people will click on, and that one will get another 100,000 views. And we're like, but we don't care. We just released a show, and so we want to put the new show in the related video slot, even if it's only going to get 10,000 extra views, because we want the audience to know that we've released it. They're like, but we don't understand. They're like, it's not about views all the time.
Right.
It's like even like what Bernie Burns says all the time. It's like the idea that it's not about 1 billion views that you've had. It's about the people that like really care about your content, which is why we're really like happy to be doing the podcast for the people that like watching this, because they're the ones that matter the most.
Yep, absolutely.
And we want to be able to get information to them.
All right, we're gonna try to get one more question in. I don't even know how long
we can do
going.
a speed run.
So A. Arquez on Instagram. What is the best time to upload?
You probably know. We actually
we
don't
have been
we
we talked about this a little bit in Amsterdam when we saw you. We are so paranoid about the fact that we have released at the same times for so long that we have too much paranoia about, is that actually impacting the recommendation engine's behavior, that we're too afraid to make drastic change. So we've not really experimented with this. We've stuck to what we always do.
Yeah, it's a hard, to answer the question, there's no one good answer, right? Because a lot of it depends on who your audience is. Have you trained them into watching at certain times of the day? And, is your content the type of stuff that people want to watch early in the morning, late afternoon, in the evening, things like that? We were just talking about Rick and Morty and the fact that it's airing at like 11:30, so it's a weird time, but it's memorable. But it is one of those things. So like, it's going to vary dependent on what content genre you're in. I will say that Tuesdays, Thursdays, tend to be strong days, as well as Saturdays. Mondays are bad days. Fridays, Mondays tend to be the worst day. Wednesday as hump day tends to underperform, and Fridays as Fridays can be pretty hit or miss. It's a bit of a wild card.
It could bring you into the weekend.
It could bring you into the weekend if you have kind of that sort of content, if you're catching people at the right time. But Friday is a bit more of a wild card. But the most like stalwart days of the week are Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah, and it's so interesting from thing to thing because we have conflicting data to that and supporting data to that. So it's so interesting.
But I'd say what it comes down to more than anything is that like if you know how to program for your audience and what they're there for, you're gonna knock it out of the park and like to whatever degree, unless your algorithm has been taking a hit recently because you've been trying different things. Then no. But that's the thing is that like I think to what the argument would be there of having data that like Matt has towards that is if we're going to launch a new format, then we should try to be on this time on this day versus releasing it on a Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Then it's like, no, probably bad time.
Right, exactly. And the other thing to keep in mind too, again, to the idea of who your audience is, are you being watched by a lot of people who would be in school? Well, if that's the case, you know, what are the restrictions of watching in school? Well, I need to either aim it for lunchtime or after school, not when they're at dinner with their parents, or, you know, again, like you said, what part of the world, making sure that it's a time that's going to be accessible for both people on the East Coast and the West Coast as the primary
that's
watch
been our
areas.
Our main thing has been parents and like teens, because we have both. And so basically get them out of school,
and that people
East and
that
West
are
Coast
in like the UK are, it's not too late that they're still
close.
it's late,
It's
but
like
they're
4
still
a.m.,
some of them are still going to be awake.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. So we have to wrap up.
Do we?
Yeah, I mean,
were there a lot of good
do you want to keep
questions?
going? I mean,
Were there more
there
good
is a lot of
questions?
good questions, but it's going to be
JC,
a long.
do you have to go home? A little bit longer?
That's the employee loyal. Good job. Well done.
That could have made for an
This man
awkward
wants
moment.
a bonus. Give this man a raise.
There's so much here. There's also lots of like theorist fans that had just general questions.
Here
from
we
Matt.
could do a speed
man.
run. I'll keep
You'll
it.
go-
So
I'll keep my answer
so
short.
these are some things that came like specific to you, which is
geez,
from
thank you.
Danny4224. How long does it take to research, edit, write, and record one episode of Game Theory?
100 hours.
There we go.
Incredible. You've been
Leah,
asked that enough that like you got that down.
It's usually around 20 to 30 hours on a typical theory of research and writing, and then about 70 to 80 hours on the edit side.
BNord19. Is there a way to manipulate the algorithm to show exactly what I want to see?
Use YouTube search. That's to find what you're looking for.
Mama Pony, what is your advice on starting a YouTube channel? You and Steph have inspired me to start.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm glad. And anytime we can encourage new creators to come on, that's always fantastic. I mean, select a format that you are going to be comfortable doing from
rest
now
of your
until
life?
eternity. And that you'll still be able to find enjoyment out of, that you can produce quickly and easily and cheaply, because, you know...
100 hours.
Yeah, right, 100 hours, or just in general, like, as YouTube expects, like, if I were to do it all over again, we were lucky enough to create a 100-hour format early on when you could do that and achieve scale at a time when we were able to do it. And now we have employees who can help us maintain that cadence.
Right, would you have found that audience?
Exactly.
Right
And
now?
the fact
found
that
it
we
at a
would
time
have
when we
never made your format ever because of early, from going back to the very beginning, where I think in the early YouTube playbook is where you have the quote from us in there. We never make anything if you can't make 3 or 4 in the same day.
You can't shoot 3 or 4.
That was the rule that became everything when we were over running production at Maker in that first year. That also became the rule. No ideas. You're not even allowed to film a video, early Maker founders, unless we were making 3 of them in the same day. And so that was the model that still goes here, where we still shoot so many things on a day-to-day basis because you've got to be sustainable and at the same time prevent burnout for yourself. And if you want to do it in the old days, if you want to do something different, now don't. But if before you want to do something different, shoot your format that can come out every single week, and then you can spend 3 weeks making something that's 100 hours long. But don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and for me at this point, like the visual, especially the visual style of the show would be very, very different, and so we could thin down that 80 hours of time.
It would have become more like a spoiler episode, like we would do, where it would just
like
be you sitting there,
your 50 YouTube
and
spoilers.
just quickly going through. You would go through the theory, just talking to the camera really quick with graphics popping up around you.
But even that, like again, it's 20 to 30 hours of research.
Well,
and
we
it's
don't
still
make
brutal.
that. We don't make that show anymore.
Right, I know. I don't think I haven't noticed. But yeah, it's funny actually. Fun fact: I was talking to someone about creating like a new visual style, or we're going to reference something. I'm like, oh, I pulled one of those episodes. I'm like, I want the timer over here and this and that. So yeah, no, you're still inspiring generations of
fun format and great job by our editing team on that stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I definitely miss doing it. Though, and also fun fact, so we work with a lot well, it's not a lot, but whenever she's around, Eliza Taylor, who's a star of the TV show The 100, so she's in our content a lot. But she only recently, though I've known her for years, just discovered The 100 spoiler recap.
No way,
So she
really?
called me, be like, I just saw this, and so
that's
we've
so
been,
funny.
and she seems down to potentially let's do it again, and she'll come and be in it.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
that's what
Really
I might
like,
come
all right,
back.
we're gonna bring it back.
I get that. I get that.
All right, so last
Yep.
question, Prawns Emmanuel, why can't YouTube just stick to the algorithm that everybody's used to?
I mean, right? That's the question we all wish.
We all hate change, right?
Right. Change is hard. At the end of the day, they're trying to make changes for the betterment of their company, for getting new audiences onto the platform, for achieving. They basically want everyone who could potentially be a viewer to be on YouTube, right? That's why they're offering YouTube TV. That's why YouTube Red is a thing as a subscription service. That's why all these algorithm changes are happening under the philosophy that, hey, if people are watching more minutes, they're enjoying our content more, they're getting more used to watching things on YouTube, and we will be the future of entertainment. So, and I can't fault them for that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, in a lot of ways, that's why the viewership is able to be as high as it's gotten for you or for us
Exactly.
or for anybody because of that scale and because the system works. It's insane how that system can actually work with the amount of videos that go up on it and how it surfaces anything for anybody at any time. So like even when you're getting 5,000 views, when you're getting 10,000, all the way up, it's like how the hell does it even deliver that stuff?
Right.
Is a miracle that we all grew up not having. And there's a whole business to be had now and careers to be had now because of it. So like to whatever degree, it's like, I actually think that where they've gotten it to is pretty much the smartest that it can be that I've seen.
It's about training the audience to understand it better, and we don't have the tools
Creators
to do
and
that very well. Because if everyone understood it better, both the creators and the viewers,
then you
it
wouldn't
would
lose
then be
that
a
fan
lot.
base.
It wouldn't be as damning as it's been.
Right.
It would still have problems, but it wouldn't be as bad. And that's the biggest problem is getting the word out.
So maybe that's because they said how they get them to stop changing it. Like the thing that we've been talking with YouTube a lot about is like how do we help them figure out how to teach everybody the website better, because I think it's been a good 10 years of people not really feeling that communication of true teaching from YouTube to help you because it's so complicated and there's a bit of a cloak and smoke and mirrors going on.
You could say cloak and
dagger.
dagger.
Cloak and dagger. Smoke and mirrors going on that make it hard for you to actually know how to utilize the website as a creator and as a fan. And if they could just help us with the changes, and I think that's one of the biggest outcries, which has been help us actually know the changes coming, what it is and why, and so that we can all just go, oh, if that's what it is, then I can just talk this way, I can figure out that. Instead, it's been like nobody knows. It so changes. It's to such a huge degree that you can't even recoup, like you can't get back.
Right.
And you lose everything and you're gone after 3 months and you didn't even see it coming.
Yep.
And that's what everybody's gets panicked about.
Right. It's 100% true. Like and like you said, the algorithm has gotten to a point where it's really smart.
Too smart.
Yeah, right. Discoverability, I think, is a lot better on the platform now. I'm seeing a lot of channels that I've never seen before. Granted, it's all based off of this recency of like, hey, you watched this one video about fidget spinner. Here's 50 more on your homepage about fidget. And it's like, hey, I'd love to see something else.
A lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'd love to see something else that isn't related to that one very specific topic. But they're getting better about kind of surfacing like related shows or something that you might else be interested in.
I'm really
That's
happy
cool.
right now. I have so much Rick and Morty popping up because I've just been like finding different interviews and
Absolutely.
different little moments, and so I just get my little, like we were talking, like the whole string of just Morty going, and just somebody taking all of those, and that got thrown in my recommendation engine, and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic.
Right. So I think it has gotten to a really smart position. Obviously, there's still kind of exploits to the system around clickbait, just kind of optimizing for long form videos that don't ultimately deliver on their promise, and things like that. And obviously the biggest problem with YouTube has always been that they don't do a good job of communicating their changes in advance for creators to kind of adjust and pivot. I think a large part of that is because one, they don't necessarily know how those are going to affect things themselves. Right. And then two, their other big line that they're always worried about is, oh, but the bad creators will try to figure out a way to kind of hack the system and cheat it and optimize for themselves. It's like that's always going to be the case regardless of when you tell people. So
don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, don't be like it will happen and people will do it. So don't be afraid of it.
Then you have advocates like yourself and us that will be on the forefront of helping YouTube police it, because we're going to be like, hey, are you seeing how people are gaming the system? And we will then know they're gaming the system because we know what the system is.
I will not call people out, but there are so many people over the years I could rattle off that are like people that for a period of time were able to game the system, and now they're gone.
Right.
And so, there's so many examples of that have happened over the years, and you barely can really find anybody that has lasted the test of time, and or like even lasted a year or lasted 2 years. But during that moment, it's not just because they only were good at fidget spinners.
Right.
It's that they were doing giveaways and were doing different things that allowed for them to get to these places. And then there wasn't a strong enough personality. There wasn't actually a format behind that thing. And yeah, they game it for a period of time. But YouTube, the way that they built it, it doesn't win out otherwise.
Well, the two things I think to end on is just like...
things, Benny. Hold on.
No,
as you try to wrap up.
I think the last wrap up here is just like, educating the viewers and viewers educating themselves about how to use the platform a little bit better. And then 2 is creators being open and talking to each other, sharing information, and banding together in order to kind of just make this a better place, a more well-educated space, and not necessarily crying wolf and saying YouTube's broken every other week and spreading disinformation.
Preach,
I think that's
which I think both of us could be
all of us.
Like in the sense of what both of our companies have been doing and being in conversation with YouTube really closely for years. We can honestly say that those crying wolf and
Does
not
so
truly,
much damage.
not
It
truly
really
knowing necessarily like. It totally is fine for that person to be saying it. It's just like it's almost like that problem that everybody's dealing with of like you got to be careful about what your audience might do with that information and what they might then all believe or be confused about because they won't be able to. If you're confused as some top creator, imagine you're millions of people watching that don't understand it as much as you do, and then that just spills so many new confusing elements into things that only is going to make it so much harder for YouTube, but also it doesn't make the programmers and engineers happy and all the people that work
we can all do
there.
better, I think, as a creator community that
come
are
together.
lucky enough to be in the positions that we're in to try to find ways to be talking more and coming together to be a unified voice to YouTube. I think would go a very long way. Hard to do that with how busy everybody is.
Absolutely.
But thanks for listening to the longest FBE podcast that we have done. We're going to jump to the shout outs here because we've got to, but now you skip to the end and you are going to hear it because I want to remind everybody. So hashtag algorithm hour for your chance. I was thinking about hashtag Macarena, but I guess not. And yeah, well, there it is. I made my way. So we're going to do some shout outs again. These were folks that used the hashtag last time around, which was Yellow Canoe, off of what Elle, the Teens Reactor, said in one of her first episodes of the show when she was 9. So we're going to go one at a time just with these here. Okay. We'll just go down and down. So shout out to Ayashri Nepal,
Abhitha Mohan,
Elisa Lockman,
Amethyst Beloved,
Anay Pari,
Andy Mejia,
Anton Svetin,
Astro,
Aurora Menendez,
Fun with Daisy,
Good Cracker,
Jacqueline Valenzuela Diaz,
John Klein,
Jorbo 23,
Karthik Narayan,
Kaylee Schlemon,
Hendrik Harris,
Kevin De La Cruz,
Robert Anderson,
Rodrigo Ortiz,
Salvador Limas,
Shara Shamsuddin,
Stephanie Huaman,
That Whale Girl,
Unicorn Life, aka Lydia,
Vero Vets,
Viniston,
Violet Conway, and here are countries that we saw leaving comments that you're listening from. This place always blows our mind. We say it every time because it is incredible how global the audience is. So people were listening last week from Argentina,
Brazil,
Canada,
Chile,
Guatemala,
Honduras,
India,
Ireland,
Lithuania,
Nepal,
New Zealand,
Nigeria,
Oman,
Peru,
Philippines,
Portugal,
South Africa,
and USA. Shout out to Maryland, Ohio, and Michigan.
Ohio, what?
So huge thanks to MatPat. Thank you for coming on there. Thanks for years of friendship and collaboration and
course,
amazing
guys.
things. Watch Film Theory and Game Theory, and if you're a creator
GT
that needs help, there's a great consultancy side over to what he does as well. So yeah, thank you for taking all this time.
Hey, thank you guys for inviting me on, for being friends for so long, and for, always preaching the good word out there. I can't wait to see the results of your experiment.
Oh God,
We'll let you know.
see always.
So we will see you next time. Use hashtag FBE podcast to get some questions of what you want to see next, and maybe we'll do this again the next time the algorithm changes.
Hopefully
Thanks so
later
much.
rather than sooner.
Bye.